We're joined today by Robert and Jamie Agee, the founders of Banners for Freedom. They've been a real force for the Great Awakening, putting up something about 175 billboards across 30 states, raising almost $500,000. They do billboards, indoor billboards, bus benches, mobile digital trucks, and it brought the message of the Great Awakening to Times Square of all places. Robert, Jamie, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, it's great to be on your program.
We've been following you for quite some time here, and we know that you've been involved with the Clay Clark events and doing stuff with that. You've climbed up the ladder pretty high, and I think you're doing some amazing work with some really awesome people out there that are fighting for freedom. How did you get involved with Clay Clark and his events and some of the other things you've been doing?
Yeah, well, it's a true testimony on what God is doing in the lives of so many people right now. It's nothing that we could have done. We didn't even plan on doing anything like this, right? We had got inspired, went to a Reawaken America Tour conference in Tampa. General Flynn's up there saying, local action creates national impact. And we're like, okay, we got to get involved. And so we started getting involved in our county commissioner meetings back here in Texas, woke them up to the truth of what's happening with this, jab and this whole pandemic. And we saw some victories. Masks fell off. They stopped encouraging to go get the jab. And, they adopted Governor Abbott's vaccine mandate ban. And we took an ad out in the paper, and my wife saw some papers in the trash can, thought to herself, I wonder how many people are actually reading the newspaper nowadays. And then she saw this billboard in town.
The Lord just pretty much highlighted, and it said, this is the next means to get this truth out. And it wasn't necessarily call to action. It was just providing the people an informed consent of what was really going on with these vaccines, in kind of contrast and battling with all the fake information that's coming out through mainstream media.
Yeah.
We didn't even really need a call to action, right? It's funny. She came to me first saying, I'm up here at my computer, I'm doing something. And she's like, hey, babe, I think we're supposed to put up a billboard in town. I looked at her, I said, you're crazy. I was like, billboard, that's way too big. I was like, we're not billboard people. I'm too busy. I got a lot going on. We're doing the county commissioner meetings. We got an ad out in the paper. We always have an excuse on why we shouldn't or can't, do something. And, all these things come to my mind. And she started poking at me, and I'm like thinking, they're coming after the children. That's when they announced they're going to start putting up these clinics in schools and whatnot, and they're going to approve it for children. Like, we got to do something. This is war. When you come after the children, and that's a line that you just don't cross. And we're going to get involved even further than we are. And so I said, okay, let's do it. I was like, so, how much is going to, she already contacted him. She already knew how much is going to be for this billboard. She already, had made some arrangements. So we jumped right in it. We put up this billboard, and we didn't, like she said, need a call to action because the number was a message in itself. It's so large. It's really, truly unbelievably large. And this is the number that's pulled off of the VARS.HHS, the Health and Human Services.gov website. And at that point, it was 800,000 injuries. We're like, that number, that should get enough attention to get people to think twice about going and participating in this, especially bringing their children to participate in it. But we're like, we can't just put up this number because people need a source to go to obtain further information.
Right.
We're not a source, we're just some backwoods folks here in Texas. But the And We Know show is, Stu Peters is, we're watching Dr. Jane Ruby on Stu Peters constantly. We were taking her information to the county commissioner meeting because, we didn't have all the information, but, Dr. Jane Ruby sure did. And she had all the documents. We just print that off and read it. So, we thought, why don't we put up the And We Know logo and their URL? Why don't we put up Stu Peters logo and the Reawaken America Tour conference? And that's kind of how this started. And then my mother took a text message that I had sent her of this billboard and sent it to the assistant over there at the Thrive Time show, Clay Clark. He saw this, was like, what is this guy doing? He's like, I want to have a conversation with him. What's he doing? Put up billboards with my logo on. I thought I was in trouble. Right? I was like, oh no. So he wanted to do a call through Zoom. I'd never done Zoom, so I figured out how to download Zoom. And here comes Clay up on the screen, and he opens with his show. He's like, welcome to the Clay Clark show. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm about to do an interview. I've never done anything like this, right? Way outside my wheelhouse. And we do this little interview. And it was a great interview. And, while it's so funny, while we're on this interview, he's talking about all the billboards we're going to be putting up across the nation. And I'm thinking, he's speaking prophetically, because we don't have any intention. I mean, we would love to, but I mean, we could barely fund the one billboard in our local town here. So, how we were going to do this nationwide was going to have to be an act of God. Well, God got involved. And next thing I know, we're at these conferences. Clay invited us to come down and just be a part of the conference, just to attend the conference. And then he said, "Hey, why don't you get up there and tell everybody what you're doing?" I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness!" I was like, "I don't know what we're doing." But you want to get in front of like thousands of people? And he encouraged me. That's what true leaders do. They take people and they see potential in someone, and then they put them in position to succeed. And so, we get up there, we share a message, and my wife had been reading not too long before that in Psalm, and she goes, "Hey, you got to check out this verse in Psalms. 20 verse 5 says, 'In the name of our God, we will raise our banners.'" And it just resonated so well. I was like, that's the mission that we're on. We're going to raise banners of truth across this nation in the name of our Lord. And I started giving a message that, we're the army of the Lord first, right? And we need to not be afraid of these giants. We must remember, who is for us, right? Who can be against us. And I started delivering this message at this Reawaken conference. Next thing I know, people just came up to the front and they just started putting money on the platform. This really resonated with them. They wanted to be involved. And, this isn't a unique idea to us, putting up billboards to get this message out. Apparently, there were so many people that were like,
many people that came up to us at the conference. I've been feeling like we're supposed to do billboards all across the U.S., putting out information, and they just didn't have a graphic designer in their pocket or, the funds to fund a whole billboard by themselves, or couldn't put their name on it, or different reasons. But
so they thought, this is a great way we can get involved, and we can all take, all pull together our loaves and our fish, and we'll put it in a basket, and we'll ask the Lord to bless it, multiply it. And that's what he did. And so we've been able to raise over $460,000 since November of last year, put up over 180 billboards. And each one of these billboards, there's actually multiple ads on these boards. So it's really like over 1,000 plus, ads, running. That's what's nice about these digital billboards. You can submit multiple ads. So, what a new ad will rotate up every time that is displayed on their board. And so, we have a message up there about how many people have been injured by the jab, which right now is at like 1,390,000, which is what's been reported, right?
Yeah,
which
1%, something like
right.
1%, according to the Lazarus report that was done by Harvard, saying, they think only about 1% is being reported. So it's just that's an astronomical number. And then we put up a message about how many people have died, which what is being reported is 30,000, right? And which we know is much more. But I mean, if 100 people had died, I mean, in the past, a 5 people had died from a vax, and they canceled it. So it's truly remarkable what they've done. Another one saying hospital protocol kills, because that's what they're doing. They're bringing you in there. They have a protocol. They give you remdesivir, causes your organs to fail. They put you on a ventilator, drown you in your own fluids, and then they get paid for each one of those services. And then if you die in the hospital, they get paid on top of that. So that's a message we're trying to get out, and then to defeat the mandates. All these mandates that they're putting on, these different people. One of which are the pilots, which is a very scary thing. So we started putting up those messages on billboards, and we update them every week. So as a new VARS numbers updates, we take that number, we update all the files, send them back out, and each week people get to see that number tick up, and it really creates that psychological impact. Mm-hmm. We've taken out bus benches and mobile digital trucks. We've done some indoor billboards on television screens in different venues, and then there's Times Square, and that's a true testimony on how we got up there.
Straight from the Lord.
Absolutely from the Lord. There's a struggle getting this message out, right? There's a censorship that takes place. Right. I think we all see that, and that's kind of what we're doing, trying to bypass the mainstream media. And that's what you guys are doing. A Vigilant News is putting out the information that is being censored to the people. And, we weren't able to get up on Clear Channel or Lamar, some of these larger billboard companies. So the Lord had helped facilitate being able to make contact with all the independently owned Patriot billboard operators throughout the U.S. And we've been able to establish a network of over 800 billboards that we can get these messages on, and growing. But Times Square, we're like, there's no way they're going to let this message in New York City, on Times Square. And we had actually contacted a company because a lady had sent us a picture of a board. She's like, oh, you got to get up in time. I'm thinking, there's no way. But I was like, if you don't ask, you don't receive. So I was like, well, we'll ask. So we did, and they said absolutely not. And said, well, can I just put my URL? They said, no, don't contact us again. You cannot put your information up here whatsoever. Okay. So we left it alone. I said, Lord, if you want us up in Times Square, we'll be in Times Square. And then Jamie, my wife here, got a phone call one day when we got back from Phoenix, and it was totally stunned when she came and told me this.
A company had called us and they said, we have a billboard in Times Square that we want to offer you just one heck of a deal. Like they had another client come in and put a third of the money down or something.
Two-thirds. It's a $90,000 spot. They put 60 grand down.
Yeah.
60. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
For a 3-month slot. And they offered it to us for 30,000
because that company backed out of the contract and left that money on the table.
Wow.
So it's like the board used someone else to help fund this billboard that was completely, unrelated, unconnected to this mission. So we said, wow, I was like, absolutely. I was like, sign us up. I was like, how long do we have to make this decision? Because still $30,000 is a lot of money.
And let me ask you, like, you don't know who this person is. They're like totally unconnected to all of this. Is that right?
Yeah. And they weren't putting the money down for us. They were just a whole other company. Yep. Trying to run their own ad. And then something happened. They had to leave the country and they just left that money there.
Oh, thanks, God.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. And so I look at Jamie and I'm like, hey, so how long do we have to make this decision? And she was like, one day. They need to know by tomorrow because these slots fill up fast. So I was like, okay, so how much money do we have in the bank account?
Yeah, not enough.
Maybe like maybe $5 grand. As soon as the donations come in, we're putting up billboards as quickly as possible to get this message out. We're not just sitting on a whole bunch of money. It's like, okay, all right. So what are we going to do? Is I really feel like the Lord gave us this board. He put it in front of us. And, so we prayed about that night and woke up the next morning. And I felt like the Lord said, hey, I didn't give you this opportunity just to tease you with it. I want to test your faith. And I realize now, too, he's using it as a testimony. But he said, you take care of it and I'll take care of you. And I'm thinking, well, what do you mean you want me to pay for it? Like, because I got a credit card. I got a personal credit card. I could do that. It's a little bit of a gamble, but when you're working with the Lord, you know that he's going to take care of you. So, and he showed us so many times up to that point. So we went ahead and purchased the board, $30,000, threw it on a credit card. 2 days later, a gentleman calls. He said, hey, I heard you getting up in Times Square. I don't even know how he figured that out, but I said, yeah. He said, tell me the story. So we told him the story, and he's like, no. He's like, you did the right thing, but that's not your responsibility. He's like, give me your bank account number. Gave it to him. He wired $30,000 into our account. Okay, Lord, that was quick. Yep, and I do appreciate it. So it's another testimony that this is the Lord's board. And what's really interesting about this board is it towers over all the other boards in Times Square. If you look at it where it's positioned, it's up on the corner of this building. It's 2 boards in one, so it's like a cornerstone, right, of this building. And there's 2 boards, so you're able to put up 2 different messages or one full message that will wrap around it. And I feel like it's like a double portion, right? Because we're able to do multiple things on this board as well. And so we're definitely giving him all the glory for it. And there's so many very interesting messages or ways that stories behind the messages that go up on this board each week and how it's facilitated and the timing of it. Absolutely fascinating.
Wow.
One of which, we were talking earlier about the Georgia Guidestones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sheila Holmes. So that's a really interesting story. We were traveling, I think, to Virginia Beach Reawaken Conference.
Right.
And every week I got to send these files to Times Square, and I was behind a day or two because I don't just throw up anything on there. I really wanted. I mean, this is the Lord's board, right? So I want to make sure the message going up this week is just the appropriate one. And I wasn't getting anything. And we were in a hotel. It was like midnight, and I've got to get something out, right? So, okay, what is it? What is it? What is it? What? And I got Sheila home. Sheila home. We got to know Sheila home here recently. Just a really nice lady. She's doing a great work to wake up this nation. She's a historian, American historian. She covers the Georgia Guidestone. She's known as the Georgia Guidestone gal, right? She's written all these books about it and whatnot. And I thought, you know what? Let's put that up there. I'd recently seen this cover, this graphic for a series of books that she's done called the For the Sake of America. Yes, I'm thinking restoration, but For the Sake of America. And it was 4th of July week, and it has this flag, this American flag on the front. But you know what? That's perfect. For the Sake of America, patriotic. It has this flag on the front. I'll animate the flag. So what's nice about the Times Square boards, you can actually add animation. So, but I wasn't feeling it, right? Because I mean, we're not, and it wasn't about promoting a book, you know. It was really about the message For the Sake of America, but it just wasn't complete. And I mean, I put Sheila Holmes' logo up there at the end, and I was going to surprise her with it. She didn't even know it was going up. I hit send on this thing about 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 hours later, the Georgia Guidestones come down. And of course, we had no idea that was going to happen. I wake up that next morning, the first text message I get is from Sheila Holmes. She texts me and she's like, "Hey, you won't believe what just happened." Sends me a picture up, and I'm like, "You won't believe what I just submitted to Times Square." I was like, "You're going up there." I'm calling them right now, and I'm going to see if I can add in a video footage. There was a drone video footage of this stone just blown up and scattered across the property there. And I had enough time to do that. So I was able to get that up in there, and they had that thing rolling live a day after the stones fell. And then I, of course, showed Sheila, and she was floored, right? Because we had no idea this was going to happen. It was just a perfect moment, and just a little bit of a God wink, right? That he's in this, and he wants this message out, and he wants the world to know that their altars are coming down. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it happen right before our eyes. And I believe we're about to see a whole lot more of it take place here real soon.
Oh yeah.
I mean, especially the psychological impact. So like breaking a story. This is one of the reasons why the cabal need the media so much, is because when they get to be at the forefront of delivering new information to people, that's when people's minds are the most receptive. And that's when you can drip in the most, programming, basically. So that's one of the reasons they like to do that, I would argue. But what you did is you took advantage of that same type of tool, we might say, in consciousness, and just used it for the opposite purpose. And, specifically the Georgia Guidestones, that's like really novel. We're not just talking about, the latest husband that Jennifer Lopez happens to have. It's something really, really novel. So the power that it has to really act as a vehicle for new ideas and God's work is just across the board. I mean, it's one of the best examples you have of kind of divine intervention, I would argue.
And I feel like Georgia Guidestones is one of those things that's not a partisan thing. Everybody thinks that that's creepy.
Exactly. Yeah.
He can reach more people with that too.
I don't know how you can agree with reducing the world's population down to 500 million.
Yeah, that's a little freaky.
Yeah, just a bit. No kidding. Wow. So needless to say, it's been an overwhelming success, and just proof every day is a kind of personal sacrament for you guys about how much you're doing the Lord's work and how much the Lord is there with you. Yeah, it truly is. And what he's doing right now is he's raising up very simple people, right? And that's what he's always done. I mean, you think of the disciples. They were simple people. They were fishermen, carpenters, just or ordinary folks. And he's given them divine blueprints in this hour, and he does this so that he can get all the glory. Right, you qualifying the unqualified, and it's really neat to see. And I'm seeing it happen in so many other people's lives. I got so many testimonies of people that I've met at the Reawaken conferences and other things that are happening, where you see the hand of God moving, and he's preparing, I believe, an army, right, that is going to be not just leading people in the battle. I mean, we're already in that battle, and that's already happening. But there's going to be a need for an army of people to help facilitate the revival that's coming in this great awakening that we're in. Because as the lid is pulled off of all of this, and it's all revealed to us what the enemy has actually done, in secret, and that revealing's coming. And it's going to be laid out before man in a way it never has been before, so that we can see how we've been deceived, but we can choose a side,
Because it's hard to choose a side when it's so gray. You don't know where to stand. But when that's revealed, and a lot of people are they're not gonna know what has happened. They're not gonna know where to turn and what to do with the information. And I truly believe, even people like y'all at Vigilant News are going to be that source to bring the truth to all these people that are waking up, that are going to be getting this giant red pill.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really neat to see that. And it's a responsibility, and we don't take it lightly. We want to be good stewards of what he has called us to do. And I believe y'all are doing that too. We're so proud of the patriots of this nation, the way that they've come together to help facilitate this. It's amazing, because this is completely funded by the people.
Right.
They said, "Hey, we want to get involved. We want to do something." A lot of people, they got the 9 to 5, going on there. They got family events, and they have so much that they're already involved in, and they don't know, what they can do. And this is one very simple, easy way of getting involved and raising a banner of truth across this nation to wake up our brothers and sisters and fight back against this tyranny. We got to take over these 7 mountains of influence, right? The entertainment and education and media and so on and so forth. And I believe that's what we're doing in this hour. We're taking authority over that, and soon it's all going to be delivered into our hands.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about that quote that Flynn always says: "The local action creates national impact." What would you say? You said you were getting involved with the commissioners and stuff in your county. What do you think is the best way for people to do local action if they don't know? Especially millennials and people who are just like have been apathetic up until now. What would you recommend is like the best course of action to get involved locally?
The county commissioner meetings.
Yeah,
those are
City,
great.
School boards.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. School boards need to hear what the people are thinking. I'm ashamed to say I've never been involved in anything like that. Up until mid last year,
July. And like, honestly, what I knew about the county commissioner meetings, I just thought they took care of our roads. Went there to complain about, the pothole in our dirt
the
road.
lack thereof, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they had so much influence in what was going on in our county to begin with. I didn't know that they were getting direction from the county health doctor, who in our county, I've done some reviews on him, or read some reviews on him, and apparently he's got dementia, and he's directing our whole entire county
Wow.
on the way. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem like they should have that much power and authority, especially if they're going to sources that aren't quite qualified to give that kind of information. And
they have a lot of voting power to steer everything that is happening in the county, where the funds are, decisions that are being made in regards to these emergencies, right? And the county judge has a lot of authority. It's quite shocking, and it was quite shocking when we were there, and the county judge was encouraging everybody to go get this jab at the end of the meeting. And I'm thinking, you're not a medical a professional, right? You have no idea what's in this thing. Nobody knows what's in this thing. And, you really don't have any business encouraging people of our county to go take this. And so, we need to hold these people accountable. I mean, we did put them in office, but then we have to go and we have to get involved. We have to go forth and occupy, right? I think that's why we're in the situation we're in, because we just wanted to trust that everybody was doing their job. And, it takes sacrifice, right, to go to these meetings and to get involved. But I must say that it is rewarding, once you see, some victories, and that you're doing something to help facilitate change and to bring awareness. There's a reward that comes with that sacrifice.
They too, right about this time last year, I was reading in the Bible, and I came across a scripture. I don't remember off the top of my head where it's at, but it was saying, we should be in repentance for the things that we've allowed to happen in our, in our area of influence. We've participated in it. What are we ignoring? And we're blindly just turning our backs thinking somebody else is going to take care of it.
Right.
And it really kind of was my motivation, other than Robert dragging me to the meetings, because I don't really like public speaking. And I just kept replaying that scripture in my head. It's like, if not us, who? And we're supposed to be his hands and his feet and speak truth to the people in order to have effective change in our area. Mm-hmm. And when we see a problem, don't sit there and complain about the problem. Go find a solution and help fix it.
That's right.
Yeah, part of the blame is definitely on us. It would sure be nice if in, high school government civics class, they taught you how to get involved, instead of little tidbits of history that are useless. But
right.
We drag our boys to the county commissioner meetings with us too.
Nice.
That's great. That's great. And how old are they?
8 and 10.
8 and 10. Are they able to kind of comprehend like what's happening and all the stuff that you're experiencing too?
Oh yeah, they're completely awake. They can red pill any adult pretty much on vaccines, and
that might be the most.
Don't be fooled when you think a child's not listening, they're listening.
Oh yeah,
they're listening probably better than the adults are listening.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, it's amazing. My boy will be over there, and he'll be occupied with something else and be completely, engulfed in it. And we'll be over here having a conversation, and then he'll stop what he's doing and he'll repeat everything we said, and then he'll bring correction to it. And I'm like, how can you even comprehend what was said there, let alone, be able to, formulate a whole nother idea behind it. So it's amazing, the mind of a child. And I do believe that the Lord is raising up these children to do an amazing thing. And they're going to be going before us. I believe, we're entering into a time where the Spirit's going to be poured out in a measure we've never seen before. And he's going to use these little ones. It's going to be absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I wanted to comment on some of the common thread I see with all this, because we're talking about spiritual activation, that we are the arms and legs of God and Jesus to do the righteous work on earth. And also the repentance for not doing the right thing, which I call contempt for righteousness, that there is a right thing that needs to happen. And when good people choose to do nothing, then we will essentially enable bad people to do their works. I mean, if you're in the supermarket and there's a shady guy in a trench coat walking over to a kid and he's got, that look in his eye, then that you as the observer, that's your opportunity to do something about that. And if you don't do something about it, then he will likely do something insidious with that kid if that's what his intention is. So I think, taking that concept and kind of scaling it up for what is the citizen's role in a country, that's what our role is. I mean, our role as citizens is to be the watchdog, be stewards of society, and keep the people that we elect in power in check. Because if we don't do it, then somebody else is going to whisper in their ear. There's going to be a lobbyist, something like that gets up there and convinces these people, who tends to be too busy to think critically about a course that is ultimately not going to be good for the country and good for the people. And, I think this whole theme is doing God's work. And you guys are really exemplifying that in a really big way for people through these banners and through just using your power of your voice and your free speech to speak to these things. So it's no small thing at all. And yeah, I think it's great.
I want to bring up one more thing before we move off with the county commissioners, that I'm feeling really impressed to share and encourage people to do while they're at these meetings. And it's something, our leaders in the past, throughout biblical history, are generally influenced by the prophets. And I'm talking about when major change takes place. It's when they start listening to the prophets, right? And that they'll bring the word of God to these leaders. Now, just like say, God used Daniel, right, to influence the king of Babylon, which he didn't listen. But so what I really felt impressed to do when I was at these county commissioners meetings was not only deliver the truth as far as what's going on in our society or with, medical tyranny or whatever the situation may be, but was also to bring in the biblical element of it, and the spiritual aspect of what's taking place, and to bring in the scriptures and to help them understand the time that we're living in and how it's a spiritual war that's taking place. And that is why a lot of these things don't logically make sense, and why, this there's so many different elements about it that is off, and it's because it's spiritual, and just reminding them about that and encouraging them and using scriptures. Like, we must use the authority that we walk in. We must claim the ground that we're on, and we must bring that authority and that spiritual element into those conversations with our leaders. And I believe, God will honor that, and I believe it will be received. But it takes courage, because there's sometimes, it can be a little uncomfortable because they're not used to that, and the people that are there aren't used to hearing that. But I tell you what, there are many people that will be proud of you, and they'll come and tell you, wow, I'm proud of what you've done, and please don't stop doing what you're doing. And I think a lot of folks don't even realize the importance of that, like in that setting. They don't realize until after it's taken place. Then they see the value in it and the importance of it. So don't be discouraged by anybody that may not understand what you're doing. Do everything that you're doing unto the Lord. All right. Don't expect anything in return. Do it unto Him, and then you'll be rewarded in different ways. And it feels good. You feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do. So yes.
And also, it's actually very, very humbling when somebody comes up and says, you're making a difference. Don't stop doing what you're doing. And it's like, oh, okay. It encourages you, but it also humbles you at the same time. And praying for the city officials and the people that are making these judgment calls and advising the citizens of your area is really, really key. The Resistance Chicks out of Ohio, they recently had a big, huge event where they called as many pastors and candidates running for political office in Ohio to come and join. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of pastors that showed up, but all the candidates, well, not all of them, but a lot of candidates showed up, and they were seeking prayer. For God to put into position the people that were supposed to be in, and for praying for wisdom and knowledge of what they're supposed to do once they got into office. And I think that that's been lost throughout the years, is that we're not praying enough for our political leaders, and especially when they're seeking after prayer, because they want to see the change that needs to happen in our
praying openly with them in a setting, not like in your prayer closet, but actually gathering together, laying hands on these people, and calling on the power of God to move. It's so important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, first of all, I was an atheist for most of my life. And then I found God and Jesus about 10 years ago, getting into all this and realizing how much evil there was in the world. And it completely changed me. It's almost like when you don't have a true north, when you don't have a guidance to know what is true and what is right and good, then all of the tools you're given by God can be used in all sorts of really nasty ways that you're not even aware of necessarily. And I can only imagine being in a position of power in an office and not having that true north. I mean, it would just, I can't even imagine it. Like, so if I was a candidate, I would want that. And I'd want that support. I think prayer does many things, but one thing on a psychological level is it creates that link that your heart and your flesh can actually make sense of. And your flesh is constantly reminding you of stuff. That's that automatic part of you. And when you have that connection, you bring that prayer into it, then it activates that, the part of your body that God is trying to talk to as well. And the candidates need that. And having that social ritual really, I think in their mind, cements that connection and realizing that, hey, my constituents aren't just some wishy-washy people who could care less what the hell they do as long as they get their food stamps every month. They actually have a true north of their own, and I need to align myself with that.
Not just candidates. Was it Greg Phillips and Catherine Engelbrecht at the pit said something about they wouldn't even be able to do what they're doing without prayer specifically. They didn't mention money or anything else because it seems like they're in the line of danger actually for some of the things that they're doing. And they don't, I mean, I'm sure they need money to do a lot of the, intelligence buying that they have to do, but prayers seem to be like the main thing that they wanted.
That sustains them. And even Trump, I mean, one last thing I'll mention is that Trump, I want to say, was one of the most active with respect to prayer in the White House as a president. Potentially the whole time, but at least in living memory. And look at all the great work that he was able to do. So, given all of that, what experiences have you guys seen from people that you interact with? Because you're not hiding the fact that this is God's work. You're very vocal about this. People see it when they see the banners and things like this. What effect have you noticed in people who you've interacted with respect to that?
I think a lot of it is, the people who are already awake to what's going on. I think it's bringing them hope. It's bringing them hope that they're not alone. They're not the only ones that are seeing the issues that are going on. I think that's, to me, it has been the biggest feedback, and it's a lot of hope.
A lot of hope, and hope that more people are going to see this. I get all these messages on True Social or Telegram where people are talking about folks that they know that are near and dear to them that have been injured or have died, and to know that there's this message being broadcast out to the world in different ways. It gives them some sort of not a closure, but a that something's being done about this. Something, and there's many people doing something about this issue. This is just one way, but getting this message out there loud and boldly in front of people is very encouraging. And to also hear this testimony that just two simple people that weren't even planning on doing this, God said, hey, I've got a mission for you. And I truly believe, had we not, because God doesn't show you what his plans are for you, right? He reveals them to you as you walk into them. And I truly believe, had we not done certain things, had we not went to that one conference that we felt like we were supposed to be at, had we not went to the county commissioner meetings and did it every week for 17 weeks straight, had we not invested that time, had we not taken that ad out in the paper, had we not done that one billboard, right, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing today. But we were trying to be obedient to what we felt like we were supposed to be doing at the time, not doing it in expectation of any return or of any this thing progressing into something else. But the Lord led us into this, and one thing I want to encourage folks is just keep doing what you're doing today. Every day, do what you do and just do the best job you can at it, and just pray, Lord, let your will be done, not my will, but your will, and reveal to me your plan as I walk forward. And he'll do it. He can't wait to do it. He's got blueprints for every single one of us to do a great and mighty work in this hour. I mean, this is the time of miracles. This is the time where he is going to be doing the miraculous in ways because he has to, because there's so much work to be done so quickly, but before he returns, and to help facilitate this harvest that's about to take place. This harvest isn't going to be done with sickles. We're going to need combines. There's a lot of people, right? There's a lot of work to be done, and he's going to be helping facilitate that. So it's really neat, and it's an honor. And there's so many people that are encouraged by just that testimony.
Right.
It just seems to be like a magnetic draw of people together. It like supernaturally quickly that there's no mistaking that it's the Lord's bringing people together to facilitate all the different areas that need to be affected. It's not just us, trying to attack mainstream media through billboards. It's people who are making documentaries. It's people who are prayer intercessors, and that's their main focus, and that's what they need to be focusing on right now. There's other people who are going out and being the doctors and trying to help heal people through natural ways versus vaccines or pharmaceuticals and things like that. We all have a certain role to play, and it's bringing people together so that they can go and facilitate and be more effective in the role that they're supposed to be doing. It's just wonderful to see, and it's very encouraging.
And that's been one of our focuses too, is putting away differences, putting away competition, and uniting together. There's been, the world has led us for so long to think, we have to compete with one another. We all have to be, the best at what we do. And, if this person, we don't agree with this one thing that this one person does or says, then we need to distance ourselves from them. And I don't believe that's, what we're supposed to be doing. If the disciples, did that, if they separated themselves because of their differences, where would we be today?
Mm-hmm.
We're all different. We're all learning at different paces. We're all understanding, at different times. The Lord's revealing things to us at different times. And we have to be very careful because the enemy wants to divide us, and he'll come in and he'll start whispering to you and say, well, this one person, looks at this one thing this way, and he'll want to cause you to distance yourself. We have to unite. The only way we're going to take down these giants is in unity.
That's right.
And we've got to move beyond this division. All these, in addition to putting up the VARS numbers and these different messages, we also have this spot on the right-hand side of the billboard where we promote different patriot organizations or ministries in this movement. And we'll just put up their logo. They don't even ask us to do it. We just do it because the people need to be aware of who, these sources are.
Right.
And so, we may not agree with everything that each one of these organizations say or ministries, right? And that's not the point. We all are on the same team as far as, Jesus is king, and that, Team USA. Right. And we're all fighting this giant together. So we're trying to bridge that gap and in the little way that we can. And I just feel like it's so important that we remember that right now, that the enemy really wants to divide us. We got to be careful about that.
I also think too is that he's even divided us on religion by all the different denominations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a Sabbath keeping holy day feast keeping church. He grew up in a Church of Christ, and then we ended up going to a Pentecostal church, and we've been taught different beliefs about the different religions, and we've studied on the different religions. And it actually hit me this morning. I was reading in James, and he was talking about pure and undefiled religion.
Mm-hmm.
And the breakdown of it was, we're allowing all the different religions and theologies and things like that to divide us now.
Mm-hmm.
We had a meeting yesterday with a Catholic. We're not Catholic. We don't necessarily believe, the same doctrine as most Catholics, but that didn't separate the conversation of what we're trying to do in a particular event that could ultimately affect the whole country.
Mm.
It has nothing to do with religion anymore. We've got to get back to serving God, fearing the Lord, and doing his commandments, and going back to his ways and his days. And that's how we need to be living right now, and just sharing the truth with as many people as possible.
Well, we've been
was on here talking about billboards. So but this is turned into a Sunday.
Well, there's so much more to it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is my way. I love talking about this stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, we write scripts for a couple places. We do writing and research, and one of the things we've been reading and writing about lately is the infiltration by secular groups into religions, particularly Christianity and Judaism, and the intentional, splitting by creating new groups and stuff. It seems like it's, made because there's a disagreement, but it's actually there's a force out there splintering these things intentionally, especially in the 1800s. It was a lot of that was going on. So,
yeah, exactly. It's really important to keep in mind, I think, that there is one truth. We have different perspectives on what that truth is because of, our unique place in time and space and things like this.
But God gave us free will.
Yeah, exactly. We have free will. So I think, one lesson I take from especially Jesus' time on earth is that he wasn't forcing people to believe one set of things. And if you deviated from that at all, then somehow you were like, you couldn't get into the kingdom anymore. He focused a lot of time on the bigger picture things, the things that everybody can get behind. And then he left the details for human beings to figure out on their own. And I think the negative influences on our world have tried to focus us on the nuanced details. Like, well, when you go to church, you wear 3 buttons on your suit and you should only wear 2. And because you wear 3, that means you're going to hell. And, all this kind of insanity. And they're trying to divide us and conquer us because they know if they can divide the family of God, then they can take control over the earth effectively. And frankly, they've been extremely successful at that. But, now we're at a time, partially because of this revival and a lot of the good work that patriots are doing, where we're starting to question hundreds of years of dogma and doctrine that might not be for all our best interests. I mean, in my research, because of what I come across, because of my background is not being in any one religion, I had the unique ability to kind of look at things from outside of that bubble. And as far as I can tell, there is no religion that hasn't been tainted in some way by these nefarious people. And if we look at the bigger picture, then we can have a better way of sorting fact from fiction, but especially recognize the divide and conquer tactics so we can get back to what's really important, which is loving each other, doing God's work, and trying to make this world a better place, I think. So
having grace for one another.
Yeah.
I'm glad people had grace for me as I was, learning and growing in my, Christian walk, because I there are things that I still don't understand that I maybe should, right? But there was things that I've come into understanding, of, and I'm glad I had the grace. I'm glad he showed me the grace and allowed me to walk into these things. I really feel like we need to extend, each other the grace, and that's so awesome what you just shared.
Replace the judgment with mercy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you guys, what you're doing is helping to show people a path. And, I really like that your emphasis on giving glory to God, because it's very easy, especially when you start to get recognized for doing something that other people think is good, that you get wrapped up in this whole, self-aggrandizing ego.
I still want to shrink back in the corner most of the time.
I mean, we got a homestead out here back in the woods. We keep to ourselves. We do our own thing. We don't, like getting out in the, in the crowds, and he's just pushed us out in there. And so, and we know none of this is done because of anything we've done. I mean, we've said yes to it, and we've done the best that we can, but it's all been facilitated by him. He definitely gets all the glory for it. And, I got a prophetic word. I'll share this with you real quick in closing, that Mary Crowley, she had a word for me, or for us. We had met her back in the Dallas conference, and at a dinner, and she came by and said, "Hey, I got a word for you. But I had to leave. My party's leaving. Can I call you later and give you this word? It's a lengthy word." I was like, "Okay, sure." I gave her my number. She calls a few days later. It's Tuesday. We were invited to a John Birch Society meeting, which we never been to before. Didn't know why we were there. We're standing in the lobby, kind of like, what are we doing? And I get a call from Mary Crowley, and she says, "Hey, I really want to give you this word, but I'm being called into another meeting, but I feel like I'm supposed to give you a little bit of this word right now." was like, okay, that's interesting, but sure, yeah, let's do it. I put her on speaker, and she said something along the lines of, I see this rodeo, and you're this cowboy, and you're on this bronco, and it takes off, and it's bucking, and you're holding on, and you're riding this thing, and it's like it's like you know how to ride it, but you never ridden it before, but you're doing a good job, but you're almost flying off of it, and just you're holding on, and she's like, okay, I got to go, I'll call you back later. Okay,
Okay.
it's interesting. So I hang up the phone. Jamie and I, we turn, and right in front of us is a statue of a bronco getting ready to buck with the cowboy on the back of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I took a picture of it. I was like, this is crazy, right? Right. So,
Pretty sure the Lord put that statue right there
well,
at that moment.
he had Mary call us
Yeah.
at that moment,
time,
and to give us
wow.
that little bit, of that word at that. And we got called to that John Birch Society meeting that we didn't know why we were there, standing in this hotel lobby, just so that it could confirm the word. Because what the rest of the word was that evening was that the Lord is about to pull the lid off of all of this, and he's going to expose it, and people are going to realize the error that they participated in, and that they are going to be turning to him for truth and understanding and for healing, and that God is going to be, there's going to be a massive revival that's going to come out of this, and that there's going to be healings on a scale we've never seen before, and he is going to be changing their DNA back into the original form from what the enemy has tried to destroy. And that we were going to be using, he was going to use these billboards and to put up a new message, a message of hope, and one that's going to be leading people to the Lord, to find the answers, and to find a direction and a compass once all this is revealed. And it's going to happen quickly. And God really, when it's time, it doesn't take long for things to happen. The walls of Jericho, they fell in one moment. It took them 7 days of walking around it, but it fell in a moment. Babylon fell in one day. There were battles that had taken place, but in one night, Babylon fell and was handed back into the hands of the people, through Cyrus.
Mm-hmm.
And same with Egypt. They walked out of Egypt with all the gold, all the silver, all the furniture, all the cattle. In one day. And then when they got to the Red Sea, they walked through that Red Sea in one day, and Pharaoh was destroyed. So there's a lot of things that happen very quickly. We're about to enter into that time, and hopefully we will be able to use this means that the Lord has given us here, Banners for Freedom, to put out a new message.
Amen. Yeah. Well, in closing, so we've got the next few months coming. Obviously we're in the midterm. So two things. What have you got coming up in the next few months, or anything you want to tell us about as we close out? And then where can people go to not only see all the awesome work you've been doing, but to support you?
Sure. Well, you can support us by going to banners4freedom.com. On our website there, it's a fun website. There's a little interactive map. So you can go down, you can see there's a little flame over each location of where these billboards have been placed. And you can zoom in, and it'll actually show you the billboard, a timestamp of when it was live. It'll show you a little webcam image of one of the ads that played on those billboards. And then there's a full location list you can click on, right up there, and it'll give you all the locations. So you can follow along there. And also on True Social and Telegram. I think we're on Get or Gab. Well, we are on Get or Gab and Facebook. And every time we post a new banner, whether it's at Times Square, which is really fun, or a road board, or there's another message, we'll post it on the social media. So we're always updating that, so you can follow along there. But in addition, on our website, we had a lot of requests when this first started with people that were like, hey, we want to raise our own banner.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you have signs or something to put out and flyers? So on our shop page, you can get vinyl banners, yard signs, window decals. You can make your own vehicle into a mobile billboard, which is great.
Yep.
There's car magnets, there's flyers and posters with information about the vaccines, things to consider before you go get a vaccine. Those are great. They're postcard size. I've got a friend that she travels a lot, so she takes her purse in and she's got them stuffed with a whole bunch of flyers, and she'll put them in the bathroom stalls or up on the ledges of the mirrors in the bathrooms. Just an easy way to get the information out. And it doesn't take much effort if you just think about it, come up with creative ways to get the information out.
You know, we're going to be going to the Reawaken conference here in Idaho, Washington border. That's coming up here in the next couple of weeks. And then there's the Pennsylvania conference and some other different events we're going to be getting involved in. But, you know, one thing that we've got going on is Times Square for the next 2 months. You know, we've got a lot of, you know, very interesting ads that are going to be going up. And we really want to try to, you know, we need help facilitating that, right? So this is another opportunity for people to help out. You know, we took it upon ourselves to contract this board for the next 2 months because we didn't have the funds to do it. But it's so important that we get this message up, you know, in front of the people. You know, in this hour, these next 2 months that we're going into are going to be vital. September, October, right before these new elections. I believe a lot of things are about to take place that are going to, it's just going to shock the world. And we're gonna use this board to communicate this to them. And then we have over 800 billboard locations ready to receive this message. And if anybody wants to put up a billboard in their area, they can contact us. We have people that sponsor their own billboards. We have one lady that's sponsored the same billboard for months in her hometown. So we can help you facilitate that. And you know, we're just waiting to see what the Lord wants to do. You know, we take this, you know, one day at a time and allow him to kind of, you know, maneuver the direction. So follow along with us. Let's see where this goes.
It's been a wild ride so far.
Yeah, I'll say. Accomplished quite a bit in such a short period of time. So looking forward to what the future holds. Well, y'all, thanks so much for everything you're doing. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll definitely be keeping an eye out on everything you're doing. And you're welcome back anytime.